Hello everybody and welcome back to another fantastic episode of Talking the PS, your weekly PlayStation podcast brought to you here at Helix Cloud Games. Welcome one, welcome all, thank you for tuning in and watching. We do have a great show lined up for you all, talking about the brand new PlayStation DualSense Edge controller, the PlayStation VR coming out early next year, all of the fallout from Gamescom. I say fallout like it's a bad thing, all the good positive vibes coming from Gamescom last year, and ice cream for everybody.
I was waiting for it.
We got to start the show this time. That's cool.
A free ice cream for everybody. News on Netflix, updates for more movies, shows, all that related to PlayStation Studios, and much, much more. But before we get into all that, don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the amazing content we do here at Helix Cloud Games, like this very show, like our weekly Sounds of Stadia podcast and CloudQuest Cloud Gaming shows, our live streams, our first looks, and much, much more. But before we dive into all the juicy stories and news and ice creams for the week, it is still quite hot out there after all. Welcoming back my two lovely co-hosts for the panel, starting with my man of many pixels, Mr. Richie. Welcome back.
Hello, would you like an ice cream?
Now you said it, and now I've heard that Pied Piper jingle that lures all the children into the area. Yeah, I kind of would actually. It's quite warm this Sunday. We're recording on a bank holiday Sunday today. I would like an ice cream, thank you, Richie. And throwing it over to our other co-host, returning once again, our chaotic neutral, Rob. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
What is your favourite ice cream?
Ooh, that's a difficult question. I'm going to say a white Magnum.
Ooh,
which is
Magnum Blanco, por favor.
Yeah.
Richie?
I don't have a particular favourite. I have a lot of stuff, like white Magnum is good. I prefer more dark chocolate than white chocolate personally, so like a dark chocolate Magnum would probably right up my alley.
Polar opposites there.
The thing is, Richie, you don't need to have a favourite because you have every option available to you, seemingly every time we record this podcast.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's like, it doesn't seem to matter what day we record, the ice cream van comes as we sit down to record.
He knows he's a big fan of the show and he wants to be involved, is what I've heard. Rob, actually, before we get into the actual show, we have a funny story about you and white chocolate Magnums, if you recall. This was,
no, I do not recall.
This was, we went on a friend's stag do. And
it was Jeff's.
It was. Yeah, it was. It was Jeff's, our other co-host as well, right here on the show, Platinum Jangus himself.
Wait, no.
Was it?
Kind of
Gary's?
No, I'm sure it was
Gary's.
Jeff's.
Either way, it was on a road trip somewhere, and we were all on a coach first thing in the morning, and everyone else was getting kind of like breakfast sarnies, breakfast rolls, and Rob just rocks up with a white chocolate Magnum at 9:30, 10 o'clock, whatever it was. And everyone was like, why have you got an ice cream?
I was trying to reduce my fat intake. Okay,
right. It's a smart choice then.
Sugar.
Smart choice.
The worst thing is, I'd nipped the loot, and as I came back out, you're all just in the car park waiting for me. As I walk up, Rob just turns to me, completely unprovoked, and goes, "Don't you fucking start?"
Because I knew what you were going to say.
I did.
I've had it for like 10 minutes.
I didn't have anything to say. I didn't even.
You always have some. You always have something to say, Richie.
Yeah, I mean,
you're a person doing a podcast.
Yeah, probably. But I didn't even know at that point you had a Magnum.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's a good way to start the day. Nice bit of chocolate, nice bit of ice cream, dairy. We have milk on cereal after all. But that's not what you're here, folks. You are here for, of course, an amazing PlayStation podcast, Talking the PS. Thank you to everyone who has tuned in and watched. I know we're trying to get the show off the ground. We've got some regulars come across. I'd like to think there's some new people, but we do appreciate you stopping by as well for a brand new show. We're only on our 11th episode, but we're having fun. Hopefully you'll all appreciate the new overlay from last week. We wanted to give ourselves a bit more camera room to wiggle around. I know, Rob, you don't like being stuck in a box.
No, not at all. And I frequently see myself going off on the corners.
Exactly.
Anyone on the older episodes.
So there you go. You've got that unilateral movement now. But as I said, we've got a great show lined up, and we've got some great other content lined up as well. Go check out our CloudQuest show. I mentioned it a few times, but with this past week we discussed Netflix cloud gaming, PlayStation, Xbox cloud gaming. There's loads of stuff going on out there in the world, and if you've got a topic you would like to write in for the show, join us on our Discord below. We have a separate channel just for writing in with such questions. Check it out, join us, and a bunch of other like-minded gamers in there talking all week long about all things gaming. But let's get into the thick of it, guys. Busy show to break down and discuss. Rob, if you could do us the honours of introducing us to the
properly prepared PlayStation Bruising Points, a.k.a.
The News.
You caught me off guard, that one.
Yeah, caught me off guard. I thought it was going to come my way. But...
No, since you guys did it, you handed it over. Rob's done a great job, so we'll keep mixing it up. We'll keep mixing it up. Like
I almost said the Stadia one, just by
now we both just need to be on our toes, just so you can just decide.
That's it. I could throw anything over to you. Like, Richie, what's our first story of the week?
Gamescom opening night live.
I thought you were going to panic more there. Just suddenly went, what is it? You're right. You're completely right. Gamescom opening night live was this past Tuesday, and you guys all joined us for, of course, Jeff Keighley on stage, breaking down all of the big announcements. Pretty much everything on show was coming to PlayStation, I think, bar an Xbox exclusive, give or take, like High on Life, which was supposed to be a Stadia exclusive, and is now actually a Gamebox, an Xbox and Game Pass exclusive limited time. But kicking things off, I want to break down some of the things. We'll ignore probably some of the lesser games, otherwise it will be an equally long show like Gamescom itself. We'll probably run for 2 hours just talking about them. I think to kick things off, the biggest ones for me that we saw, I think we'll start with our favourite one, I think, Richie. We'll go with Where Wind Meets, which was the kind of Sekiro-inspired Bloodborne, Ghost of Tsushima, Assassin's Creed. It's kind of a mix mash of everything, but I think out of the entire showcase, that was your favourite standout one?
Yeah, it definitely was. Actually, talking Ghost of Tsushima, got the platinum last night.
Hey, congratulations.
Onto the Ishi Island DLC next, but yeah.
Just as good as the first time around?
Yeah, I generally really... It's the first game I've actually bothered to put the effort in to get 2 platinums on, and I just generally enjoyed the whole experience again. So
yes, it is such a great game, and I think that's why this game kind of piqued our interest so much.
It came at the right moments, because it looks very a cross between like Sekiro and Ghost of Tsushima, but it feels a bit more folklore in terms of like how the action plays out, rather than where Ghost is fairly grounded. I mean, it is gamey, but it's like there's like jumping through the air and stuff in this game, like quite a bit more like as you'd see in like a folklore martial arts movie.
Yeah, well, Where the Wind Meets, it's an open-world RPG, says Everstone Games, set in the Ten Kingdoms era of medieval China. The reveal trailer showed the game's stunning environments alongside various gameplay elements, including hunting, combat, horseback riding, and more. The game promises a ton of player choice with the ability to join and influence different kingdoms, or literally go in a different direction by becoming a wanderer, a doctor, a merchant, and more. So plenty of stuff around that one, but yeah, it kind of has a bit of combat and everything. Rob, we're both big fans of the Dynasty Warriors series and the 3 kingdoms. I didn't realize there was 10. Didn't realize there was 7 other kingdoms to speak of in ancient China. But it looks like this story's going to cover this one. Does this tick any boxes for you, Rob?
Yeah, definitely. It was a game I didn't particularly know much about before the showcase. And
no one did.
Again, yeah, right. And I came away like with that probably being, barring like Callisto Protocol, kind of like accumulating hype. That was the one that kind of stuck with me for sure. So yeah, it's just that kind of like overly stylized kind of anime type of power jumps and kind of style to it. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, it had a good mix of everything, which is kind of a thing where a lot of video games, new developers, indies, and new companies and stuff that can go all in with, I think, because of the fidelity they can get across now. Games can look absolutely gorgeous, and I think in the past, if this was like 10 years ago, this probably wouldn't have piqued as many people's interest, but I think because it graphically looks so damn good, and they've got the art stylization of that kind of like medieval China, it just has your intrigue, I think, right off the bat. And
yeah, definitely. I get the feeling it's not going to like feel like like other games that are kind of coming out as well. You know, like how there's been like a trend for like the feel of the games to like kind of merge into like this one kind of identity. I think that's going to be a bit different. So
yeah, plenty of stuff.
Definite points for that.
I think we're at a point where, because things get like quite zeitgeisty. Okay, this is the new meta. Everyone's making that sort of game, but then people get burnt out on it, and it has less impact. I think this is a issue Ubisoft are having at the moment, where the games feel a bit samey, the formula is no longer as effective. So I think now developers are branching out, trying to come up with what's the next thing. At the right time, we're still at the start of this console generation, and I think we're starting to see the promise of the PS5 come to life, where maybe the last year or so, it's kind of felt like the PS4 Pro, maybe this game's reaching there, but we're starting to see like the next generation of games that are designed purely for next generation rather than cross-generation stuff.
Absolutely, and we know that with PlayStation on their own rights, the God of War Ragnarok is the last game that we're aware of that has that dual PS4 and PS5 release. After this, we actually don't, outside of Wolverine and Spider-Man 2, I don't think we actually know what's coming from most of PlayStation Studios. We don't know what game Naughty Dog are working on next. Sucker Punch inevitably must be a Ghost of Tsushima 2. But the kind of wider team, we just don't really know. So yeah, we are at that tipping point, I think, where we've seen games now get cancelled. We know Gotham Knights cancelled their last-gen version to focus on PS5 and Series X. So that means games that were in the works for both are now only leaning towards next-gen only. And you're completely right. I think once the keys to Unreal Engine 5 have been unlocked as well by smaller companies, you're going to see better and better looking games. And Gamescom showcased a lot of that across the board. One of them that maybe didn't lean into that as much was Sonic Frontiers. We were promised to look at Sonic Frontiers as we went through the showcase. Jeff tweeted out and teased it ahead of time. We got a little bit more gameplay, a story reveal trailer showing some characters and stuff. Richie, I'd probably say you're the biggest Sonic fan out of the three of us, which might not be saying much, but Sonic Frontiers. Now, I mean, I like Sonic, but not for the 3D games and such. Sonic Frontiers, does this have your money? Or is it still, you're still on the fence?
As I said, going into opening night live, we knew Sonic Frontiers was going to be there. It was all in the brandings like this. I wanted a bit of a bigger presence. The trailer just felt like it kind of came and went. Like, and as I said, like before, like I'm no hotter or colder on this game. I'm still like waiting to see more about what it is, how it plays. This is the game where it's like if it comes out and reviews really, really well, I might play it if I get a bit of a lull later, maybe next year at some point. But this is coming out up against God of War Ragnarok, and for me, unless that's a game that you're just not interested in, I mean, but you are currently listening to a PlayStation podcast, is Sonic Frontiers going to be a day one purchase? I don't think it's done enough yet.
Yeah. I'm kind of on the fence, and I've said a few times, I've not purchased a 3D Sonic game ever in my life. I've always been like 2D Sega through and through, and then I go back and buy all the retro collections, and Sonic Mania was fantastic. But just looking
Sonic
at the
Generations was generally really good.
Yeah, I never played that one. I think I played the demo in like a PC World one time, and on like maybe GameCube or something. But the world for me just seems a bit empty still. Like they showcased all these like gorgeous new vistas that feel very un-Sonic like, but there's nothing in it bar like a handful of like sparsely spread enemies.
That's what I'm thinking. Like that's probably put it in like where I want to feel like I want to see more of what the game is, what I'm going to do in this open world, because it's very much a departure from what you'd expect from a typical 3D Sonic. A typical 3D Sonic's basically like a 2D Sonic in 3D. It's not. It's kind of like still like linear track.
You're on rails like essentially still.
Not quite on rails, but it's literally A to B.
Yeah.
Where open world is a very different thing, and can Sonic do it? I want to see Sonic. I said this before. I'm the kind of a Sonic fan where I want to see Sonic take his place back towards the top of the video game industry again. It might never get to the absolute pinnacle where he once was, but I want them to be in the conversation up there, and I'm just not seeing it yet.
I mean, between the cartoons and the movies, he's definitely in the conversation.
The IP's strong enough. It just figuring out what the game is, and I'm not sure if Frontiers is it. It might be.
I think the sad thing is I haven't been excited about a Sonic game in at least 2 decades. That's like when you put it in that type of context, it becomes kind of
generally people apart from Sonic Mania, people have not been excited for a Sonic game in like 2 decades. No,
it's almost at that weird point now where I'm quite happy to just associate Sonic with just fun movies about a hedgehog. Like, the movies are great. I had a good laugh with the movies.
Just haven't,
I know kids love the cartoons.
Leave games behind,
and as a character...
Sonic 2 yet.
Sonic 2 is really great. And again, if they can get Jim Carrey back for season 3, for the third movie, which they have announced, like, Idris Elba cast as Knuckles was just genius casting. And I know they're after Keanu Reeves for Shadow, I think is the rumour. So there's like little odd things to sprinkle in, which is like, okay. But either way, Sonic Frontiers, not too long to wait. We know the game directors actively came out with fans wanting to delay the game and add stuff to it and said, look, no, it's not getting delayed, it's coming out. So look out for that one this November. If you're not...
Feels a mistake.
if you're not playing God of War Ragnarok, of course, which I'm sure we'll all be doing that instead. So, and talking of things that were delayed, though, we also had Hogwarts Legacy, again, was due to be showcased at the event. We knew that ahead of time. Kind of similar to Sonic. They didn't really show off anything new. I think we've said many times, we're all Harry Potter fans. Not the biggest Harry Potter fans, but Rob, I know your girlfriend is a massive Harry Potter fan, and she won't stop talking about this game. Does this make you more inclined to want to play it, or are you just fed up with it at this point?
I don't like. I feel like I left, like, as much as I was being a fan of Harry Potter and, like, especially the books.
Yeah, we grew up with the books.
Movies.
Like, that's our age.
Yeah, movies. Yeah, like movies I was kind of tepid on or whatever. But I feel like I've left the franchise behind a bit. I haven't watched any, like, the newer movies, aside from, like, the core storyline. Obviously, there's the whole conversation around J.K. Rowling, which is, like, tarnishing things. I probably will play the game because I'll have it installed on my computer and it'll be there. So I'll dick about a bit.
You will
on it,
at least have to
expecting
watch some of it. I don't think you have a choice in the matter.
No, I won't. No.
Yeah, that's very
I've already
true.
been demanded to do a first look of it. So
First look. Well, it's definitely going to be available here on the channel. Yeah, it's an odd one, Harry Potter. I'm kind of similar thing. I enjoyed the movies and I enjoyed the books. And when it comes to the actual Fantastic Beasts, I enjoyed the first movie, but not enough to consider like wanting to watch another two in that world. And then obviously the character changes and the stuff that happened with Johnny Depp and Mads Mikkelsen swapping out, and it just seemed like there was other powers that just didn't want that trilogy of movies to really happen. It just felt like it was completely hampered by outside interference and issues. And the third one came out, and I just don't think did it even break box office anywhere, or like it just seemed to come and go. And now it's available on like streaming services, and I don't think I heard anyone talk about it at all. So Hogwarts Legacy obviously set in a totally different time frame to the Harry Potter movies. I think it not being directly attached probably bodes well for it. It's in the world, but it's not got any association to anything that came prior. So I know it is getting loads of hype, though, and I think a delay to February's maybe pushed it out of kind of this Christmas window. But you know what? Next year's looking stacked for Q1.
With that trailer, though, like, I am interested in the game. That trailer's like, I don't think it added anything, really. Like,
No.
what I want to see more from this game is give me a bit more of a breakdown of what the gameplay is going to be. Because you've already established the setting. We're in. You've sold us on that already. Now you need to sell us on what the game is.
I mean, I feel like that was a theme throughout the entire Gamescom event, right?
And I don't mind like a CGI. I'm not the greatest lover of CGI trailers. Like, do it in engine nowadays, so we can at least look at what the graphics are going to be like. But when it's a new reveal, fine. This isn't a new reveal. We've known about this game for a couple of years now. It should have been released in a couple of months. This is probably your last trailer, and I still can't tell you I have a good idea of roughly how the game is going to play.
Yeah, I think it's got a lot of hype purely just based on obviously the IP that it is, and the fact that we haven't had we had Harry Potter games on the PS1, PS2 era, like the movie tie-ins, and we had like the Lego Harry Potter games, and there's all the mobile games, but we've not actually had like a AAA Harry Potter game ever, really, what you would class as AAA. So it goes back to a lot of movie stuff. When we were talking about all the Lord of the Rings stuff, we had the tie-in games back in the day, but I feel like we just never really have tie-in games. I can't believe to this day we haven't had a Game of Thrones like RTS game, or we had like the Telltale game, and that was it. It's like Game of Thrones is like there for the picking for like any genre of game you could possibly make, and nothing's happened with it.
You set a June Roberts Rebellion, then you don't have to worry about it being a tie-in. You can kind of do your own thing, use the books as source material, and it's an era that people are familiar with. You're going to have familiar characters, but it's not that in-depth, so you can just pad it out. It would be perfect.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I have been playing a modded version of Bannerlord, which is kind of like an open world kind of choose your own adventure medieval game, and I've been playing the Game of Thrones mod for that. And for anybody who's kind of into that universe, it's superb, like even by a normal game standard. Yeah. So check out the Game of Thrones mod for Bannerlord 2 if you're interested in that.
Yeah, that sounds like super fun. Another thing, though, speaking of different IP, moving on swiftly through Gamescom news, new Tales of the Borderlands. We discussed that on last week's show. It got a leak through Amazon. It is absolutely true. It's here. It's out. I was going to say Paradox. Gearbox are working on this one, of course. Totally in-house, away from Telltale. We finally got a revealed trailer showcasing our three protagonists who were part of the description from last week. And it looks like they're going on another adventure coming later on this year. Richie, I think you pretty much sold on this already before we even knew about the trailer.
Yeah, I like Borderlands. I like the comedy. I like the universe they're building there. Tales is very story focused rather than like action RPG open world focused, which I'm all for. It'll be a smaller experience. Again, I'm okay with that. I mean, like, I don't know if it'll be a pick up day one because it depends on when it's coming out, what I'm playing around it, but it will be picked up at some point.
Yeah, October 21st, and I think what this game has going for it is I don't expect it to be too long. I expect maybe if it's broken down into 5 chapters, so I'm guessing each chapter maybe like 2 hours.
Yeah, probably 2 to 3 hours, depending on where you play. So you're looking 10 to 15 hours, so it's not going to overstay its welcome.
Yeah, looking forward to it. And moving on as well, we got an update on Gotham Knights, which was another one that we've seen at Gamescom showing off. Gotham Knights, of course, probably one of the few games shown that is actually coming out imminently in the near future. Kind of suffering a similar thing to the Harry Potter one that I think we said during opening night live. No Batman in this game, and this is still one that I've got. It's been in development for like 8 years since they made Arkham Origins, and for me, this has just got like fail all over it. I don't think this. I think it might do well because there's not much coming out in the October window. Actually coming out the same day as Tales from the Borderlands, but I don't know. There's just something about it which it just doesn't tick. Like, as a huge Arkham fan, this doesn't tick anything for me. So, Rob, what about you?
I'm exactly the same. I think it's just been left behind, like, in the passage of time. Like, weirdly enough, in my head, I feel like sometimes I forget that this game's actually coming out, and I assume it's been out, and then everyone's moved on almost. And for someone who is such a big fan of like the Arkham series, to think that it doesn't really bode well for it. I mean, I'd love for it to come out and be this like complete like turnaround and everyone loves it, but I just can't see it. It's been in development too long.
Richie, anything extra to add to Gotham Knights?
Not really. I think they probably think the IP is stronger than it is in this one. I just don't think it has the same sort of mind share like that they would have expected from a Batman game. So it's not
Batman. I honestly just think if Batman was on the cover and it had Batman as a playable character in the roster, the game would be increasingly more interesting.
I think it'd sell more, but I don't necessarily think Batman would make it more interesting. I think these are probably interesting characters in their own right. I don't know why. Just when I think of games that are upcoming this year, it just never, and I always forget about it.
Yeah,
that it just feels forgettable.
Just do the trick that Suicide Squad did and just like have like 2 seconds of Batman in the trailer, and then that turns out to be the only Batman.
Well, he's in the trailer quite extensively. You know what? Part of me still thinks when like they're trying to keep it secret for the sake of the story, but I think he is playable and he will be in it. But they're trying to just like do this cool reveal close at the time when they go, oh, he is in it, but he's dead at the start of the game or something like that.
We know,
but I don't know if that works for their marketing.
I'm also
and like people have decided not to buy it at that point.
I mean, yeah.
I'm also a bit on the fence with WB at the moment because the team can't seem to make up the mind whether they want to keep or sell their games in studios.
WB Games, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, are you just putting this out to die? Almost just like you're going to put it out, get as much money as you can from it as you're prepping to sell, so you're not having these open projects when you're trying to move your studios on.
Yeah,
maybe that's overly harsh, but I don't know. It's just the game just. I don't know why it just isn't landing. It's
got a bit of an Avengers problem where it's just like, am I just beating goons up for the sake of beating goons up?
Yeah.
And like, what's the actual end goal here? So, but again, bit of an odd one. I think WB Montreal. Arkham Origins was a great game, and I know it's pretty much dismissed by the kind of wider. I don't know why. It's like a fantastic Batman story, but because it's not part of Rocksteady's trilogy, it's just kind of dismissed by Warner Brothers and the wider team, and it's like just as good as the other three.
Is it just one of them where it is the weakest of the four, but still pretty good, so it's just dismissed?
I'd say it's kind of on par.
It's the weakest.
Yeah, I'd say it's on par. Like the storytelling, and again, graphically, it looks the same. I think it is just part of. It wasn't made by the original people, so it has that kind of weird, it's like stepbrother kind of syndrome going on. But
I guess it sits just outside like the timeline of the 3 games, maybe. But
either way, it's a shame because, like I said, I don't know what's going on, but it shouldn't take 8 years to get this out. for what it is.
No.
But we won't have to wait too long. October 21st, make your decision. Will you be picking this up or New Tales from the Borderlands or both? And will it be better than Avengers? That's kind of the telling. If it can pip Avengers, then it's probably done all right. But I am looking forward to seeing what it does with the Court of Owls, because that's the kind of the big focal point of it. So if it can tell a great story along that story thread, then it has the possibility to be great. But I'll wait for the reviews on this one.
Yeah.
Rounding things probably out for our Gamescom, unless anything necessarily stood out for you guys, we had Lies of P, the Pinocchio-inspired game. Pinocchio, I'm pretty sure, is in the steampunk world now, and it looks like you're going to have to become a real boy via metal and iron instead of wood.
Yeah, I kind of get the impression that you're almost like a cyborg.
Yeah. Steampunk Pinocchio.
Yeah.
And again, this is the kind of Bloodborne, Demon Souls inspired game set in this world. Looks fantastic, showcase fantastic. And I think this one, again, similar to where Wind Meets, kind of piqued our interest just because of aesthetically, it doesn't look like anything we've had in the recent years. We said, I think, a lot about the kind of cyberpunk wave that overwashed video games. Then we've had that sci-fi horror wave that I think the Game Awards was littered with, Richie, where it was just everything was space, space, space. Yeah. This actually felt different and grounded, and actually reminded me a little bit of the Order 1886 in terms of its aesthetic. Well. So obviously, Lies of P, I still believe it's a terrible name. I said on the Sounds of Stadia podcast this week. My opted name for it is String of Lies. Unless you've got anything better than Lies of P. I just don't like the P. I don't like the P. I don't know why, it just doesn't fit.
P's a bad word to have by itself. Out of all the words,
yeah,
out
of all the letters, sorry, yeah, there's no letter worse than by
just
itself
P.
than P.
Yeah, like, are you a vegetable or are you taking the piss? Who knows? This one, I think I'll keep a close eye on, because I think it has that thing where aesthetically it looks fantastic, but the gameplay has to sell it, because I think, similar to me, Richie, you don't have the time for like a Bloodborne, Demon Souls kind of game. You appreciate them, but
I respect them, but I've never got into one of them. I find them frustrating. Whenever I've tried to, I found them just frustrating, and then therefore not enjoyable. I like a bit of a challenge, but I don't know. I've always felt sometimes the focus a bit too much on making it a difficult game rather than. That's it's not for my personal taste, but I'm very interested. I do want to give some more Soulsborne games a go. I've always been tempted by Bloodborne, but I've just never committed to giving it a go.
Yeah, I hear.
So here's the thing that Bloodborne taught me. Okay, so I thought I used to hate going online and getting like destroyed by like 12-year-old kids who were just infinitely better than me. I discovered that I actually hate getting destroyed by an infinitely better single player game than I do multiplayer. Yeah. So that was a learning experience that Bloodborne gave me. So look forward to that, Richie.
Yeah. I'm just not into fighting the same boss about 18,000 times to get my strategy down perfect, get the dodge rolls perfect, the parries perfect before I can move on and spend about like 10 hours fighting the boss. That doesn't sound appealing to me. I think the answer is get good at the game, and then you're not doing that. But
yeah, when I saw all these like amazing boss designs and fight mechanics and stuff, but I think, well, I'm not going to see an 8 out of the 10 bosses because I don't have the patience for it. Which is why I just like to appreciate these video games from a distance. I'm currently watching a Demon Souls like playthrough series, and it's like it's fun to just watch it and watch someone else get frustrated at it.
Yeah, going back to Ghost of Tsushima, I think that has the right balance for me. Where if you put in the higher difficulties, you might as well be playing like Dark Souls. Like the difficulty is really up there. You have to be very precise with your dodges and your parries.
Yeah.
But if you play in the lower difficulty, you can just enjoy the game at your own leisure, and that's the thing that I think like things like Bloodborne and Demon Souls and Elden Ring have always missed. The lower difficulties that make it more approachable to people who don't want to just grind the same boss 20 times till they get a perfect run at it.
Yeah. But I am intrigued. Again, I think I'm going to have to check one of them out at some time, because I know Jeff on the podcast always says like he was exactly the same, and then he played Bloodborne. He got the platinum in Bloodborne. He was like, no, they're absolutely fantastic. And I think he's played Demon Souls. He's playing Demon Souls since, and
it's getting past that barrier to entry.
Yeah, completely. And you know what? I can see it a little bit, because I know I joke about Kena Bridge of Spirits, and when I did it on the Master difficulty, it turns into a Dark Souls game. And like some of those boss fights, I died like 50, 60 times just to get past them. And like you said, Rich, you learn the pattern, learn the routine. But when you actually complete it, there was that like extra kick of satisfaction where you've actually had to work hard for something rather than just like kill them easily. But at the same time, I also just like to be that power mad person where I have all the specials, all the abilities, and I just like wiping the enemies out with like just a swat of my hand. So we'll not have to wait long. But the show did round up with one big surprise that we also reported on last week, thanks to Amazon, and that was the final new updated reveal of Dead Island 2. So the show wrapped out with a cinematic trailer showcasing the revised Dead Island 2. With a different studio now. This game's actually, gentlemen, since 2012 or whenever it was initially put into production, it's been handed over from. This is its third studio. This game's been at to work on, so it's finally settled down. The guys behind it this time did actually come out in an interview afterwards and say they've actually been working on this version of the game for about 4 years. So it sounds like the original was just literally scrapped, and like I'd imagine they picked certain assets and stuff.
The thing is, if it's bouncing between studios and it's getting a bit of development hell, sometimes it might be just easier to just go, you know what, we're going to not build on this anymore. We're going to take the ideas we like and we're just going to start again.
Yeah, and it seems to have done well, because I know the buzz around it seemed really, really high, and it's just crazy to think it's coming out in February the 3rd next year. Rob, Zombies, Dead Island. What's
I love the original Dead Island. I know it had some mixed kind of reviews, like the mandatory co-op, but I love the original. Mm-hmm. I'm less excited about this one. Like looking at the trailer, you can see the very similar elements to Dying Light, and obviously like the same studio. And I feel like the spiritual successor for Dead Island has moved on to Dying Light now, so that's kind of dampened my spirits for the game. But on the plus side, they haven't fell into like the Duke Nukem trap of trying to force a 10-year-old game engine. Like it seems like they've started again, which again is the right call. I think
everything with Duke Nukem just just seemed dated when it came out. At least with Dying Light, it's a zombie game. Zombies are kind of like timeless.
Yeah, I mean, like the humor in Duke Nukem was like the thing I aged the best out of the entire game, which is saying something. Yeah, that's saying something, right? Like, if the humor's the best thing out of it, then like, what the hell's happened to the game engine and the controls and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely for the better. For like kind of history lesson, originally it was Techland who was originally set to develop Dead Island 2, but they actually decided to switch and focus on Dying Light, which obviously worked out fantastic for Techland because they went on to sell like gangbuster numbers with that one. Dying Light 2 obviously just came out earlier this year. Deep Silver, initially the publishers went to work with Jaeger, who did Spec Ops The Line, which is a phenomenal game if you've ever played Spec Ops The Line. It's stranded on PS3 at the moment, and it's one of the best kind of first-person shooters you'll ever play.
Be a great mid-month pro game, actually, for like to bring it over through the cloud.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then they kind of fell off of it mid-development, probably because it wasn't looking great. But initially it was supposed to release in 2015. So again, it's just kind of been
a hell of a long time ago.
Yeah, it's just kind of been stuck. So no surprise then that they've been working on it for 4 or so years. And Dambuster Studios are kind of dabbled in it, and it's just been all over the place. So to actually see it like reveal and get a date that's not too far away was a bit of a shock. I think it's been one of those just long. I mean, we had the joke with Goat Simulator at the Game Awards that even Goat Simulator taking the piss out of it was almost like, right, this game's never coming out. Dead Island 2 doesn't exist. It's not coming out. It's now just there for memes and lols. And hey, February 3rd, add another one to the Q1 doc for next year and play it. But yeah, I know it's getting quite a lot of, I think, early hands-on reviews from Gamescom. Not hands-on reviews, hands-on kind of views of it. It's saying it's great, or looks great. You can play 6 playable characters, and I think it's doing a couple of interesting things that piquing its interest. I think they've gone the Far Cry route, putting it somewhere bright and colourful still. I think some of the best reviewed Far Cry games take place in sunny climates. It's taking place in LA, which isn't an island. So Dead Island, we'll kind of
Just
let
dead
them,
land.
Dead Land. We'll let them get away with that one. But interesting enough, with it being LA, I was listening to the IGN Unlocked Xbox podcast earlier this week, and one of the hosts on there pointed out that with it taking place in LA and it's all sunny and that, it almost like pulls on all of the Grand Theft Auto 5 fan base who were so used to having wacky, zany fun in the kind of the fake LA. Is it Los Santos, isn't it, in GTA?
Yeah.
Pulling on that, and I think it's got that similar aesthetic and that vibe with the palm trees and the sun that I think from a marketing standpoint, posters and billboards and online campaigns, I think it could pull on a lot of fans who are just used to dicking around in that world and going, oh, you know what, kill some zombies here as well while you're at it. I think there's like clever little beats that they've picked from an art style or a visual point of view that could bode quite well for it. Like the music and the tone they're going for, it's not taking itself seriously, which it shouldn't, I guess.
Yeah, like it doesn't have that kind of washed out dystopian aesthetic. It doesn't have this super neon too much. It feels like a happy medium.
Yeah, it's not dark.
You don't really get a lot of.
Yeah, it's not dark and gruesome zombies. It's like fun and vibrant zombies, which either give or take. But yeah, there was lots of little games shown throughout Gamescom as well that we will probably get to at some point when we get close to the release. A lot of indie titles and some of the ones that aren't coming to PlayStation. So go check out our video. It's still available on the channel if you want to watch along to that one. But more importantly, I think our overall take at the end of it on Tuesday, gentlemen, was that a lot of the stuff shown off was new.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I think as gamers is great because we get so many sequels and remasters and remakes now. Just having fresh stuff that we've never, like we said, how many things popped off on there? We just went, oh, I've never seen that before, never heard of that before, and now we get to learn about them as they kind of develop and grow. So
yeah, it was very much we're setting like a level of intrigue around what's coming because a lot of them, as Rob mentioned, were CGI trailers. So I was like, okay, this is intriguing. I'm looking forward to seeing in the next probably year or two what you're doing with this.
Exactly. Well, hopefully not too long to wait. One of the things we did see within Gamescom, rounding out all the trailers and stuff, but moving on to our second big story of the week, is we got a surprise reveal, a treat from Jeff Keighley, showcasing the DualSense Edge wireless controller, which is essentially the PlayStation 5 Pro controller, if anyone's familiar with the Xbox, not Pro controller, Elite controller, sorry. It comes with plenty of customizable options, changeable stick caps, back buttons, and much, much more. It basically revealed a trailer showcasing the device actually kind of exploding out and all the little customizable tweaks. Reading into it a little bit more, we've got ultra customizable controls. You can make the DualSense Edge wireless controller uniquely yours by remapping or deactivating specific buttons and inputs, fine-tuning your aim by adjusting stick sensitivity and dead zones. In each edition, the triggers can be adjustable in favor of your travel distance to dead zones for your preference. The ability to save multiple control profiles. So I guess if you're jumping between games, you'll be able to lock in, like, I have my buttons mapped out for this particular shooter this way, but then if I'm pivoting over to an action-adventure game, I have them mapped out for this way. You can just switch between programs. On controller interface, there's a dedicated button which allows you to adjust your setup while staying focused in action. Changeable sticks and caps for the front and back as well. Replaceable stick modules, and of course all of the amazing built-in DualSense features like the vibration, haptic feedback, all that kind of stuff. Rob, I'll throw it over to you to start off with. What's your take on the DualSense Edge controller?
So I think it's probably, like the DualSense is probably for me like the best controller of consoles now. And if it kind of pairs off the back of that, and I can see it being like kind of the controller of choice for like a lot of more serious gamers. The issue is I'm just nowhere near good enough to justify this type of purchase. I mean, I can get the competitive kind of first-person shooter kind of use case for it, but like the most competitive I've ever been on a game is UFC 3, and like I managed to break into like the top 15 in the UK on that game. Even then, I did that with like the old kind of PS4 controller, and I didn't feel like I'd need this. So it's great if you want like to maybe get the esports vibe and feel a bit more kind of pro than you are maybe, but it just doesn't really do much for me in my kind of way of gaming.
Yeah,
but again, that's not to take away the the achievement they have made with the hardware, because I can see the appeal, but just not for me.
Yeah, it's definitely a niche market, and I think that the price alone is probably going to keep it very, very niche. But in a world of it, I'm more intrigued by this. I've never played with the paddles on the back, and I've heard loads of people say that, oh, once you switch your controls to the paddles as opposed to the actual the thumb buttons, it revolutionizes the way you play. But I think I'm so wired over like 2 decades of just using a standard PlayStation controller. I'm just comfortable with how it is. Like, I like where the triggers are, and I like where the face buttons are, and that's kind of like, that's me. That is me now. That's how I like to game. It's why I've said before with Richie, I'm not really that big on keyboard and mouse. I know when we played Rainbow Six Siege, you're happy to just switch to keyboard and mouse, but I have kind of no dexterity when it comes to playing like that. My brain just doesn't match up. Yeah. Richie, price wise, where do we think this bad boy sits at?
I think it's going to be up there with the Xbox Elite controller, which I think is like 120 or something. Elite Controller 2 is from Argos in the UK, 159.99.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not. This is the main reason why I wouldn't be interested in this, because I think as Rob mentioned, depending what game you're playing, there can be quite a significant advantage by having things like having your triggers perfectly optimized to you, having like the back paddles.
Yeah.
But I think for 90% of games that I would play, I'm not going to get the benefit, and the cost just makes it just not even a consideration. Yeah. From where I'm expecting it to come. If this came out maybe £10 more than a standard DualSense, and I was in the market for another controller, I'd absolutely consider it.
Yeah.
But I'm expecting 30, 40 quid higher at least.
Yeah, I think we're all probably on the same page with that one. I think none of us are going to be out there elite pro gaming, esports, anything like that. And the sheer cost, as you said, it kind of just pushes it out of the realms of reality for most people.
Yeah, it's going to be. I think this is 100% going to be the best controller in the market when it drops.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the DualSense in terms of its features, definitely. I know the Elite controller gets its buzz from Xbox for the additional features and the flappy paddles and everything like that. I think combining that with the DualSense internal features is an absolute win. So the price, I'm sure, is merited to some degree, and I'm sure some people won't even bat an eyelid at it. What I take away from this in question the most is that it's PlayStation finally opening up to just different variations on their controllers that aren't necessarily third party. And I hope this opens the door to design labs. As someone who just has a standard controller and is happy with the standard controller, let me customize it. Like, give me an Xbox Design Lab style for the DualSense, because I'll be all over that thing. I want a bright orange one. I want an aqua colour one. I want tints of different colours in there. But at the moment, we're stuck with just whatever Sony puts out. And it's a bit of a shame, because the PS4 had some cracking special edition colours.
And the thing is, it's largely just plastic shells that they're making that they made different, so it probably wouldn't even be that difficult to set up. I mean, Microsoft have been doing it for generations of consoles now, so...
Yeah, you're totally right. Like, the inner workings aren't any different. It's the same with... It's Mr. Potato Head of controllers. You just need to print out, like, a couple thousand versions of pink, blue, red, yellow. Let people go online, click it, and someone just needs to pop the relevant colours together and put it in a box and charge an extra 20 quid for it. Done. You're making profit off just basically changing the colour pigment.
I have to think that they've considered it and felt that the return wasn't worth all the fees to set up and stuff, where Microsoft have that fabrication set up now already. So it's cheaper for them to just keep going. Mm-hmm. And yeah, again, with like design labs, you might start off with a $60 controller and might end up being a $100 controller by the time you've made all the customizations you want.
You can. Yeah, I've got my initials on mine. I pay like extra just to have like CP just on there.
And that's probably took someone about 30 seconds to do. If that, it's probably cost them about 2 pence, and they've probably charged you about £2 for it.
I can't remember what it was, but it was like, it just says that option where it pops up. Do you want your gamer tag or your name? And it was like, do I? It's like, I kind of do. Yeah.
It's like, I never considered I did, but yes, I do.
I have design labs open at the moment. Do you want to know how much that costs right now?
Just for the initial
for the engraving.
Okay, go on then.
Take a guess. I want you to guess.
£8.99.
Rob, what's your guess?
No more than 15 quid.
$7.99.
Oh, I was close.
That's a busy surprise.
Yeah. $7.99
for a little bit of a rip-off for what it is, but at the same time...
It's someone's time that you're paying for there rather than the actual process.
I mean, practically I charge more for engravings than than Design Labs do. So
oh, there you go, win-win. But can you get bright pink neon versions of the jewelry you sell, Rob?
Pay me enough, maybe.
We'll see. But yes, DualSense Edge. They haven't gave a price for it. They haven't gave a release date for it. They've kind of just teased it. But we're hearing I'm hearing loads of rumors in particular about there being a PlayStation showcase in September. So I think they're going to probably go all out with kind of the next slate of games. We said off the back of Gamescom, we don't really know what's coming after Ragnarok. So I think we're going to see obviously The Last of Us comes out this Friday. And then after that, we've got God of War November. So I think we're going to see a state of play for God of War. And then an actual showcase telling us what the hell is coming to PlayStation. Because at the moment, the slate for next year for exclusives is just, it doesn't exist. So we don't know if, I very much doubt Wolverine's next year. Spider-Man 2, I could see the rate Insomniac have been putting out games. I could maybe see it being squeezed in. But it might miss out. So they need to tell us what's coming, basically, to keep people invested in, because we do know it was I should pause for a moment. The social media accounts for PlayStation actually tweeted out this week PSVR 2 is going to see an early 2023 release. So according to multiple PlayStation social media things, they basically tweeted out a picture of the actual product again, saying early 2023. Any surprise of the time frame for this one, guys? They're going to miss the Christmas window.
Yeah, it doesn't particularly surprise me, but I do think they're going to struggle. This is, again, it's going to be, the release date's going to be timed at like pretty much the peak of a cost of living and kind of expense crisis. Like, if you were on the fence about this, I think you'd be climbing off it, right? Like,
yeah, completely
on the wrong side from what Sony wants.
Yeah, I think though it depends on how they see it. I mean, they're clearly not targeting that Christmas release, so they're probably not looking at this as we want this massive influx of cash in one go. If they're viewing this as more of a bit of a slow burn, because again, I think the biggest the biggest problem with VR at the moment is the kind of lack of what you would define as a AAA VR gaming experience. There isn't a huge selection there, so if they're just going, right, here's the hardware, but we're going to recoup the cost of it over the lifespan of the PS5 rather than try and get it done in 12 months. The things like the cost of living, it sucks for them in this, and it is going to hamper the sales in like probably for the next year or two. But it would holding off change anything there. It might just be a case of, well, it's done, it's ready to go. We'll put out when it's ready to go.
Like, another element as well, it's going to release obviously 2023. When's it going to be in good enough stock levels for people who want them to get their hands on them?
Arguably the PS5 still isn't there.
That's what I mean, right? So maybe it doesn't actually matter when it literally comes out. It matters more when it's practically available.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
So maybe actually, in a weird way, the cost of living crisis might actually be a blessing in disguise, because it manages like interest. So they won't have this massive stock issue.
Yeah, as long as internally they don't like put too much pressure on it to do massive volume. Yeah. And then when it doesn't do that, they start getting cold feet and kill funding for future kind of projects.
Yeah.
And
it sets an interesting world what we're in, because like, again, we don't know the price of the PS2 VR yet. The next story we're going to get onto is talking about price, but Oculus Quest, the kind of the biggest player in the market right now alongside PSVR, is the one from Meta or Facebook, as you formerly know it. They announced this month, earlier on in August actually, that their prices are going up for the hardware. So the Oculus Quest 2 has gone up $100 across various markets.
So bear in mind they're owned by Meta, a company that everyone loves to hate. They're they're trying. It feels like they're trying to kill this thing.
Well,
and Meta's like banked it. Meta's going all in on like
metaverse VR,
like,
and the rest of the world's gone.
So I know it's definitely a weird one. So in the article from PC Games, they say Meta says the price increase will help move the VR industry forward, which might be a reference to both its metaverse ambitions and future projects. To sweeten the proverbial deal, the virtual reality rhythm game Beat Saber will now come included with Quest 2 headsets. But yeah, so just gone up. That's already taken effect. It actually peaked their sale of Oculus Quest. Naturally, everyone clambered out there to get one before the price increase kicked in. They saw a boost in sales. But You'd imagine there's a Quest 3 at some point in the works, but all I can imagine is you've got to imagine these businesses are in cahoots to some degree, and if the only option to get VR, and there's like demand and sale for VR, as you said, that kind of supply and demand scenario. If Meta are talking to Sony and saying like, oh look, we've got PSVR 2 coming out next year, we're looking at putting it around this price mark, you're currently undercutting us, but as an industry for VR, we could all make more money together if we agree that this is the kind of entry level to our equipment. And unless the PSVR 2 comes out at a cheaper price, then it just putting your tech up 2 years into its lifespan seems crazy, right, gentlemen?
Yep. I think it's also worth mentioning that like the Valve Index is also a thing. So where if you didn't want this, like with Oculus, you didn't want this like dedicated to a console, so you want it's more like a PC experience. Valve is now competing against Meta. Meta put on the prices and are Meta. Valve is currently in everyone's good books with the Steam Deck. If you're on a PC game and you're making a choice between these two, are you going to go for the Quest or are you going to go think more about the Index?
Yeah, it's an absolute crazy world where I've never seen tech increase. And I remember listening to a podcast like a few weeks ago when they were talking about them putting the price up, thinking like it's taking all tech and increasing its price seems absolutely alien. And then this week we had a PlayStation blog drop on the 25th. Doing the exact same thing. Reading straight from the PlayStation blog, the global economic environment is a challenge that many of you around the world are no doubt experiencing. We're seeing high global inflation rates as well as adverse currency trends impacting consumers and creating pressure on many industries. Based on these challenging economies, Sony Interactive Entertainment has made the difficult decision to increase the recommended retail price of PlayStation 5 in selected markets across Europe, Middle East, Africa, Asia Pacific, Latin America, as well as Canada. There'll be no price increase in the United States. So, gentlemen, the PlayStation 5 is going up in price by pretty much £30, $30, give or take, across the board, yen, whatever it converts to in yen, Australian dollars and stuff, in pretty much every market bar the United States. And I know we just joked about the Quest. What the hell? Like, this is 2-year-old hardware getting a £30 price increase. And you can't even get your hands on one still, so you can't even rush out and buy one while they're cheap.
You can put all the marketing speak out there about the global economic environment, but when you're putting up the price of your tech, what you're doing is you're then just pricing people out of the market. People who literally you are acknowledging have less money to spend. You're now making your product more expensive, which means it's out of reach for more people. Well done, Sony. Yeah. Well done.
And in theory, their efficiency to produce consoles should have went up, which like the whole kind of
the chip shortage is on its way back down. Like
that's what I mean. Chip shortage down. In theory, they should have been more efficient with their production as time goes on.
It's consumers shit, right? Like that's the bottom line. Yeah, and it's that thing where in the past it is a multi-million-dollar like business. In the past, they've eaten they ate shit on the PS3 for the first like 5 years of its existence because it was a loss maker. Because the whole point of this hardware, right, is you get people to buy them at a loss, and then you make the profits back on the software you sell by people having them in their hands. And just putting up by £30, especially. We'll add the extra caveat to that. Since then, Nintendo and Microsoft have both came out and said, "Yeah, we're not going to do that in any time soon, the foreseeable future."
I mean,
I could see them doing it, but
I could see them doing a U-turn on that maybe in a bit, because it's like that phenomenon, like when your flight's delayed at the airport, like all it takes is one person to sit down, and then other people start to sit down, like in the queue and stuff. But I think like the increase of PS5 is going to push people more towards like the bundles, like phone deals where it's like 20 quid a month for like which.
Or to Xbox?
It's not real death,
gaming.
But it's still
Like
you like
Xbox.
think so, but the state of PS Plus is, I don't know.
Well, that's kind of the conversation, is it? It's like, how much do you price your actual own consumers out? Where you're totally right, Richie. They push them towards either the other brand, which we know Xbox is doing gangbusters in terms of value. The Series S is so much cheaper now than a base PS5, and with Game Pass, it just kind of it does make you question what the tactics are with this, because they had to sit in a boardroom and discuss all the outcomes of a price hike 2 years in of £30, And I mean, I tweeted out about the other day playing Saints Row. I paid $49.99 for Saints Row. That was already £10 cheaper than it was on the PlayStation storefront. I played it immediately, and if I needed a PS5, that would have cost me £30 on top of the usual. So say, what was it to buy with a disc drive? £480 in the UK right now. So essentially, it would have cost me over £500 to play Saints Row, whereas using cloud gaming, it cost me $50. That was it.
And as well, at this point, I know we're early adopters to cloud gaming, but people are starting to question more and more, what's the value of this box that's sat in my living room?
On CloudQuest coming out on Friday, we're literally doing an episode focusing on gaming TVs, because it was Samsung have brought out a new gaming monitor that has the Samsung Gaming Hub built in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's when it's becoming more of a question, it's do I really need this box? And then a price increase comes out, more and more you're going to think, fuck this box, I don't need it. That's the one F for the PG-13 rating.
It's that, and the genuine reality of is can people afford it? That is the reality of it all. They open up their blog by saying about the global state impacting consumers and currency trends. If you're out there and you've got a few kids and you maybe don't have the best paid job, is paying $500 to own a bright white box under your TV. It's just not a reality for a lot of people, and
it's probably going to cost £3 an hour to light up the LEDs with the electricity.
Probably.
Yeah. All that they just said about the global economic challenge and stuff, all that is absolutely true. But this entire story feels like the board have got together, they sat down, they've looked at the quarter profits, it's probably down a bit because of their overheads went up, staff wages have went up, and they've decided that in order to protect their own dividends, they've pushing the cost onto the consumer. Yeah, that's how this feels to me. It feels like you're just paying, if you haven't got one, to sustain their profits rather than...
Gotta pay for those acquisitions, though. Gotta pay for them, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just can't see a good spin on this.
There isn't.
Even everything they're saying, it makes sense. Yeah, things are more expensive. It's more expensive for everyone, but you're pushing your price of your product at the same time when people have less money to spend, which makes it less likely people to buy it. Your competitors aren't doing this, which is going to push people towards your competitors. Where's the win for Sony here?
Yeah, it's hard to see. And again, we always Richie, we use the example of little Timmy out there and his mum and dad, and he's gone. And again, we've all been there when we've went to our parents and asked for things for Christmas. So as we head into kind of the winter autumn time, is just picture it. You've got mum and dad, they're not into gaming, they don't really understand it, but all of their kids, all of little Timmy and his friends play video games, because that's what kids do nowadays. Good on them. And they go in, say, late October, November, what do you want for Christmas? And they say, I want a PlayStation. And mum and dad go, right, can we afford this? What we do? And they'll go out, they'll do the research, they'll do the shopping. And then when they go into game or they look online or whatever, there is the reality of there's an Xbox sat there that's over £100 cheaper. It comes with the majority of the games included for £1
3 months Game Pass,
or 12 months Game Pass. In fact, Rob was saying about the mobile plans. Our friend Luke just picked up a Series S for £20 a month interest free, with 12 months Game Pass included for £20 a month. So why would mum and dad go and spend £500 on a box to then pay, say, £70 for God of War Ragnarok? Not that little Timmy's old enough to play Ragnarok, but £70 for exclusives. He will though, yeah. And it is, you're right, Richie. It just goes back to that. There's your everyday person out there on the high street trying to make ends meet is going to want to get their kids into this because it's what they want for Christmas. It's the big kind of thing. And there's going to be a conversation where, would you rather have an Xbox? No, I want a PlayStation. What about an Xbox? No, I'd rather have a PlayStation. Mum and dad really think you like an Xbox. Okay, I'll settle for an Xbox. And then that kid is now an Xbox gamer for life, for all we know. It's it's you're right, Richie. There's no place I can see Sony taking a win for this other than if you're a shareholder.
That's it. This is where but even then, I think the shareholders are going to ultimately take an overall loss on this. The other thing that's annoyed me is this is not across the board. This is in select markets, and somehow the US escaping this.
Yeah, I think that's another kick in the teeth, isn't it?
There might be solid justification for this, but as someone's outside the US, I'd like to hear that. What is your justification for not doing it there?
So the US are getting inflation under control faster.
Yeah, the dollar's stronger than ever, isn't it?
Yeah. They've done a lot more to kind of, and in fairness, haven't been hit in the same degree that Europe and most of the rest of the world has.
For me, that's a justification of adding the US into the mix, because the US consumer has a bit more free cash, so you can offset the other ones. Because again, if you're Sony, do you really care what market it's coming from, as long as the money's coming in?
I mean, let's face it, as gamers in Europe, we've been shafted on conversion rates for about 20 years now when it comes to, the game's $20, but that converts to £25 somehow. It's like, that's not how it works. Either way, we digress, of course. For me, it's interesting because it almost is setting Sony up for a double hit for when, if they do finally have to announce the price increase in America, it's like, that's just another bad PR beat you're going to have to suffer 6 months down the line, when you could have probably had it just all done and out the way in one horrible, swift go.
Bear in mind, this is happening when there's a class action lawsuit going through in the UK because people feel like they're being overcharged.
Yes, there is. But it again, we'll no doubt cover this. I'm just kind of in a weird, twisted way. I'm grateful I got mine when it was £30 cheaper.
Yeah, I actually use the phone deal, similar to what you mentioned with Luke. Is a Series S. I got mine with my EE contract, and I paid for it over a year, interest free, and that's how I kind of got my PS5 day one.
Yeah, it's the way of the world now. Again, it's people that hard done is like dropping a couple of £100 here or spread it out over several months.
Yeah,
with interest or without interest. It's just the way with subscription models and everything. But yeah, something's got to give, right, guys? But this is not the podcast to break that down and talk about that. Let's pivot over to some final stories of the week. Coming off the back of PlayStation's moves into price hikes, they're also looking to invest money in movies and TV shows. And we've got a couple of updates from the world of those particular things. Starting with Horizon Zero Dawn is getting a Netflix show. After all, of course, Horizon Zero Dawn, Horizon Forbidden West. The adventures of Aloy continue in a post-apocalyptic world with robot dinosaurs and such. It's just been announced that Steve Blackman, who is currently the showrunner for the Umbrella Academy on Netflix, is going to be responsible for the upcoming adaptation. He spoke of his enthusiasm for the Netflix project, and I quote, "exceptionally well-crafted game with wonderful characters not often seen in the rank and file of the gaming world." He also confirmed that Aloy would be the main character with his upcoming adaptation. "My writing partner on this, Michelle Lovretta, and I are thrilled to able to expand on the remarkable IP in a series for all types of viewers." So that's the first one up. Richie, you finished Forbidden West recently. Mm-hmm. What do you expect to see out of a Horizon TV show?
I think we have talked about this before, but I kind of would like to see almost like the story playing out by jumping backwards and forwards in time. So if the modern stuff focusing on Aloy, the past stuff focused on Elizabeth Sobeck, and you're kind of unwinding that mystery of how the Earth kind of, whatever happens to it. Trying not to spoil the games here a bit as well, and just kind of so you're seeing as Aloy's discovering what happened, you can go back at time and seeing what's happening with Elizabeth Sobeck and how that all came to be.
Yeah, well, TV shows notoriously love a good flashback as well.
Yeah,
so
but
it could work
you can
quite
kind
well.
of just, it's not necessarily a flashback, almost like going a 50-50 split on this. So it's not just all focus on Aloy. I mean, the action scenes are going to write themselves. They're there. It's going to be easy to do that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the story's so great and the characters are great. I kind of feel like, even though having played both the games, I still feel like there's a lot of that world to be explored still with the characters. Rob, I'll pitch it. Have you played these games?
I haven't actually.
Okay.
Horizon Zero Dawn is not one that's...
So purely from a visual standpoint, I'm going to pitch this to you right now. Rose Leslie, aka Ygritte from Game of Thrones, should be cast as Aloy, hands down. She did enough as a wildling to portray that type of character to be an absolute shoo-in. She could lead
That's
this.
good casting.
I can't think of anyone else. But in terms of it, again, this thing, I'm glad it's probably a series. I think there's that much of a world to tell. I'd hate it to be condensed down into just a 2.5 hour movie. I think there's a lot more. I just hope the budget is there for the robot dinosaurs, because I think they are going to be the standout feature of this series.
I kind of hope that they don't overdo the robot dinosaurs, though. That you don't need Aloy fighting a robot dinosaur in every single episode, in my opinion.
Yeah, you don't need
save it for these
of the week.
Spectacle set piece moments.
Could be very good.
Yeah, I want to see Aloy go down into a cauldron, and that's an episode where you can spend a huge chunk of your budget on your robot dinosaurs.
That could be a horror episode. Like, it's all dark and you don't know what's there, and these big neon red lights come on, kind of thing. Same with the Predator ones in the jungle that have the stealth.
You can kind of, as soon as you said horror, it's like you can see Aloy dropping in. It's dark, and suddenly you hear the light, the sounds, and it's like she's getting jumped at, and it's like. Shit. Now we're into action. She's running. She's fighting the down. Oh, this could be phenomenal.
Richie's like off on one now. So
yeah, I'm sold
completely.
I'm sold in my own. What's going on in my own head?
And the showrun again from Umbrella Academy. I've just finished season 3 actually this past week of Umbrella Academy. Really, really enjoyed it. So it's nice to see that that's kind of the producer from that is continuing on to this one. But that's not the only news we had. Before the next TV live action series, did you guys see the Resident Evil Netflix series is not being renewed for season 2?
Thank God. Jesus Christ, that.
I'm glad I didn't watch it now.
I know, like the Resident Evil movies. I have a soft spot for them, but I know there's no kind of high art happening in those movies. But the TV show just had like an extra layer of ridiculousness about it. And again, I've been a lifelong Resident Evil fan since I played the second one when I was far, far too young. But God, thank God it's cancelled. And like, I just hope.
Did you watch it?
I watched 2.5 episodes. It's the thing that killed it for me is when the guy playing Wesker just turned like they cast like a I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a superb actor, completely wasted in as Wesker in this show. But he turns up in like Wesker's really dated Matrix style outfit, and he just looks like Blade turned up in Resident Evil.
Right. Oh.
That's the worst thing about it. What's his name?
Well, Lance Reddick played Wesker, who, interestingly enough, Richie, he is Silence in Horizon Zero Dawn. So, yes, phenomenal actress.
Superb, but I don't know how the hell he got hooked into that show.
Money.
I don't know if he's got like, alimony to pay or something. But
Resident Evil is one of them IPs. There's so much you could do with it, but when it comes to like TV, like again, soft spot for the movies. When it comes to TV movies, I just don't think anyone's quite figured out, or you haven't got the right people, the right budget behind to really do it properly, because it could be absolutely phenomenal.
Well, Netflix also has the animated one, right? That's due out. I don't know if is it been out or not. Where it was Resident, it was Chris.
Been out.
It's out.
Yeah. Well, there might be another one. I can never keep track of all the movies that come out. But that was again. A lot of people disliked it. I feel like lots of gaming fandoms put just unnaturally high expectations on a TV show. So, like the Halo show, I loved the Halo show. I know like everyone kicked off about it, but I liked it for what it is. And again, I think people disliked the Resident Evil animated one for broadly the same reasons. But like, yeah, I like that. But thank God this Resident Evil Netflix show's gone.
Well, bring back Mila Djokovic is what I said. That's all it was missing. But keeping with the movie thing as we round out the show, the BioShock live action series has also picked up some updates. Netflix's live action BioShock movie will be helmed by the director of I Am Legend and Hunger Games Catching Fire. It will also be picked up by the writer of Blade Runner 2049. So there's a bit of gravitas being added onto that one as well. The writer also had credits working on Logan as well. So the X-Men Logan movie with where it was set in the older ones. BioShock, again, similar to kind of Horizon Zero Dawn, for me, BioShock's more about the world than the actual characters for a big chunk of it. Rapture, that kind of dystopian future, again, steampunk world, similar to what we were talking about earlier on with Lies of P. It's just right for the pick in BioShock, and I do hope they lean into more the horror elements a little bit with this one. Rob, I'll start with you because I know Richie got totally overwhelmed with his Horizon Zero Dawn fantasies when we spoke about that. BioShock, what would you like to see from a BioShock TV series?
I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head then when you said it's the kind of world building and more so than the character-driven thing. And I think again, people were divided on I Am Legend in terms of like how accurate it was to the books and the ending and things like that. But the one thing, his name escapes me, sorry, who did well, who directed that, was creating like that world for Dr. Neville, Neville or whatever his name. Well, whatever I like Will Smith's character.
Will Smith. Like, we'll just say Will Smith.
The world around him, which was created, was superb. Obviously, the story has people divided, but if they can nail the setting, I think I'll go with whatever kind of characters they want to introduce. Either I don't know if they're going to do new ones or they're going to kind of make it a continuation of
I mean, the great thing with the games is you're a kind of first person silent protagonist for a big chunk of BioShock. I know, like, he says a few things, but you don't really buy into his character. I'd say in Halo Infinite, you get more involved with the character from Halo Infinite, and Troy Baker obviously voicing his talents there. But in terms of the game, I'd just love to see like Rapture like envisioned in a real world to walk around. Like, I always think it would make a great theme park as well, just because of the nature of like how cool it looks. And if they get the music right, they get that kind of 1920s vibe, the art deco and the steampunk combined, it could be fantastic. I just hope both of these shows have the budget to do them the credit where credit's due.
I think like one conceptual thing I would really love to see is obviously with Sony kind of moving more into different media for their game franchises, like create franchises quite agnostic of whether it's a gaming franchise, whether it's like a movie franchise or anything. Just make it like this kind of identity which you can then do games with. You can then make TV shows and movies.
I think they kind of have that when you focus a lot on world building in that world that you're inhabiting, like Horizon, like BioShock, things like that. I think it's easy to kind of go, okay, we have this world, we've got the building blocks, we're going to tell a story within this world. And how you tell a story in a game is very different to like a movie or TV. But if you have the building blocks of the world, you can kind of do what you want with it in terms of narrative.
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like a lot of TV shows become like if the game's successful, then the TV shows start to come. If they maybe approach it as we're going to create this amazing world and do X, Y, Z in it, movie, film, whatever.
So for BioShock, cool. I want them to go to Rapture. I don't want them to just tell the story of the first game beat for beat though. Like do kind of your own thing a bit more. Same. That's a similar thing I want with Horizon. Like explore more of the world that you can't really do in the video game. They should add to the fandom rather than just be a retelling of what you've done.
Yeah, and I think they'll have to naturally do that, because as you compare to a TV show, you can't just have one character. You need to have a cast of like a good 5 to 10 people who are involved in pushing the story along. Because if you're just walking around awkwardly looking for puzzles and maybe bump into a big daddy every now and again, it doesn't really do much. So I think this and all the other projects, they will have to have new characters and new stories in. But Sony are clearly leaning to this kind of Sony and the wider video games world, I should say. Not BioShock's not Sony, but lots of IP, lots coming up. I know we're getting a Sweet Tooth, what's it called, Twisted Metal series with
I love
who plays Sam Wilson in Anthony Mackie is playing. He's the main guy in it, so I don't know what the hell that's going to look like. Obviously, we've got the Sonic movies we mentioned, we've got Horizon, we've got the Last of Us series coming from HBO, which looks fantastic. And I do think Sony's portfolio lends itself quite well to storytelling, because a lot of their big hits from the last kind of 7-8 years have been single player narratives. So I guess it's an easier transition when you've practically got a script written already for you. You just need to expand it out into 6 to 10 episodes of a show. It's an automatic win, and as much as some people didn't like it, the Uncharted movie did super well as well. So
I was just thinking about Uncharted. Imagine if you had like a 6-hour TV show run to do that, 6 1-hour episodes. You could probably tell something a bit more intricate in terms of your story.
You could.
Then an hour and a half just action flick.
Yeah, it probably would have done better as a TV show and a movie, maybe. Not financially, but maybe kind of narratively.
I think that's the interesting thing, isn't it? It's like you get that blockbuster hit, and I think they wanted Uncharted more to be like an Indiana Jones big movie, whereas there must be a decision made at times, because we know like the Obi-Wan Kenobi series was originally a movie for years, and then when Disney Plus exploded, they were like, "Oh, actually, if we crunch the numbers, how many more subs can we get for it being a 6 week series?"
People are going to the cinema less often. People are more interested in their digital box set sort of stuff now. We can hook someone in for 6 weeks rather than an hour and a half.
Completely.
And also, I think most stories benefit from a bit more breathing room that you can fit in.
Yeah, and
even like a 3-hour movie or whatever.
If you look what like Marvel have done recently, like they're not fixing, like it's not going to be this is a 24-minute episode or this is a 55-minute episode because you got to think about the adverts. Like just make the episode what it needs to be in terms of length. Witcher's done things like that. Game of Thrones probably started it, where it's like to stop trying to fixate on this fairly arbitrary run length. It's like, you know what? This episode, in terms of the pacing, will be 40 minutes. The next one's going to be 55. And that's fine.
Absolutely. And you know what is a perfect time, gentlemen? 1 hour 15. That brings us to an end of Talking the PS, episode 11. We've been breaking down all the PlayStation news for your listening, viewing pleasure right here on Helix Cloud Games. Plenty of topics discussed. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to give the video a like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you're kept in the loop with all of the other great cloud gaming content. As Richie said, we're about to go away and record CloudQuest, where this past Friday, what did we discuss, Richie?
We've discussed Netflix recently. We've discussed gaming TVs and monitors. That will come out this week. And we're planning another episode, which is going to be around the NVIDIA GeForce leaks, but that'll be like a week.
That'll be well in the future now.
That's like a week on Friday. Unless you're a member, then you probably get it this weekend.
Ooh, lucky you. That's right, our Helix Heroes, the wonderful folks who support us that extra little bit more. You get that on early access. So do click join below, join us, jump into the Discord, and do all that other magic. Follow, like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. You can find me on Twitter at CyberChris2077. You can find Richie
at RichieC89.
You can find Rob and his diamond mine. Ladies and gentlemen, that has been Talking the PS. Join us next Tuesday for another great episode. But other than that, play whatever makes you the happiest. Mine has been Chris.
I've been Richie.
And I've been Rob.
See you all soon. Take care. Have a great week. Goodbye.
Bye.